Never trust a woman who loves a sandwich. This is LesCast. I am your host, Amanda Costner. We are recapping Season 1, Episode 4 of A League of Their Own. And I am just so excited about today's guest host. We are in for a real treat. Make sure you are subscribed to LesCast, by the way, wherever you listen. You aren't going to want to miss our episode 5 recap. We are going to have the return of my wife, Nika, and me. That was a lot of fun. A lot of people liked it when we did that last time. So that will be what is upcoming for episode 5. But first, today, we have someone who is an actual badass baseball player. She was a member of the Australian Emeralds women's baseball team from 2004 to 2014. You can listen to her on Inside Pitch, her podcast where she interviews current and past baseball players. She medaled twice in 6 World Cup appearances and was awarded Baseball Australia Player of the Year in 2006. Please, let's give more than a temperate Kenosha welcome to Amy McCann.
Hey, g'day. How you going?
Oh, so great to have you on the podcast.
Thanks for having me. First of all, thanks for doing the podcast. So thanks for just starting the podcast. It is amazing. The show's amazing. The podcast's amazing. Love it. So.
Oh, I appreciate that. Amy, I have so many questions for you. Honestly, I don't know that many women who play baseball. So I got to be honest, I'm ready to jump right in. When we first became acquainted, you told me that baseball was pretty much your life. Can you describe what baseball means to you and how it's become such a big part of your life?
I think it is. It's such a thing. Is just go, yeah, baseball's everything. It literally is. Like it actually. You don't want it to define you, but it actually shaped my entire life. In that, I remember watching the 1992 movie and just went, "What is this? You've got 30 dirty women on a field just running around." I'm just like, I need to do that. I need to be that. And it's like back in the 90s, playing sport as a woman was hard. Playing as a kid was hard, and it was like I chased trying to find a baseball club and things like that, and ended up playing. And then a few years later, it was like there was women's leagues in Australia, and I'm like, what is this? And then there was actually in front of me, real life, there was women running around everywhere, and it was like I just found my home. I'd found my team, as we know the League of Their Own is, and it's like now my wife, my partner of 20 years. It's like we still coach, we still play. As you said, I do my podcast. It's like it is everything, absolutely everything.
Wow, that is crazy. So you said that the movie partly inspired you to pursue a career in baseball?
Yeah, it did. Like when I was at school, everyone in Australia, like we play cricket, like you play sport and you sort of play your school sports, and you have to play softball, volleyball, netball. And I never really took to softball, but I just liked hitting things. I just loved doing anything where I could to hit and throw. And then I saw the movie and I went with a whole bunch of my girlfriends. We were watching it, and I think I was in like high school at the time, like junior high kind of age. And I remember watching it, and all my school friends they were all sitting there. I think we were like 12. And they were all giggling and talking to other people. And the whole movie, I was just sitting there going, "Shut up! I want to watch this. I want to watch this." And they were like, it was, you know, it was like a whole bunch of girls, there's boys. The whole cinema was like just kids. It was school holidays. I was just like, I'm trying to watch it. And I was like, I didn't even know. I didn't know about League of Their Own. I didn't know about the All American Girls Professional Baseball League until I saw that. And I just got home and said to my dad, I want to play. I've got to play this sport. And then he ended up recording a baseball game, which is the Braves, which is why I'm a Braves fan.
Hey, I didn't tell you this yet, Amy. I grew up in Alabama, and when I was 5 years old, my first baseball game I ever saw was the Atlanta Braves. So yeah, I'm a terrible fan, I have to say. I've gotten a little bit busy in my age, but yeah, fellow Braves fan there. So
yeah, no, I love them. I'm a little obsessed. But no, yeah, it basically. Yeah, it was like, and my dad, I just said to my dad, I want to play. And my dad, he just rang up like club after club after club that kept saying no, and all kept trying to push me to softball. And he's like, no, she's a girl, she wants to play baseball. And she finally found a club and went from there. But it was the movie. It was just absolute. Like, I think like so many women back then, we all just went, we need to be that. We need to do that.
Yeah, I totally relate. I felt that way too. I've always been an athlete, and you brought this up a few times. I played softball, and in America, I kind of did a little digging, and there's a lot of different reasons like softball became sort of the go-to sport for women, and I guess also I feel like at least in America, just anyone over like 40 or something. My dad played softball when he got older. So I don't really totally understand why, but I did find a quote, a very interesting quote from a women's baseball advocate named Sue Lukasik. And her quote says, "The two are not the same. Baseball has leadoffs, pickoffs, stealing, balks. If you ask, every woman baseball player will say no, they are not the same." Can you speak to this, Amy? Do you have any experience with softball? You just never tried it? You were like, not for me.
Not to a level where anything outside of like primary school, which is I think prep school or whatever you call it. We just played it, and they are not the same. They are very at the top level. There is nothing soft about it, and it's not a case of I don't like softball. I play baseball. It's the same as why do you play basketball or football? I play baseball, and they are very different. Smaller field, different ball, underarm pitching, and it's. Yeah, like the name softball, it was intentionally supposed to be for women because they played it. It was actually a factory sport, and that's why it was all sort of condensed. But I tell you what, I actually wouldn't want to go and face the Australian women's softball team facing the underarm balls and stuff like that. And we're different sports. We are very different people. There is a crossover. We've had some amazing softballers come across into the Australian women's team, dual players.
Okay.
Yeah, that have played both like softball for Australia at the Olympics and with us, and it's amazing. I just tip my cap to them because I've never given it a go, but I'm actually, it's hard. It's really hard. And look, at the start of the All-American Girls Professional Baseball League, it was underarm. There was a lot of modified rules before it sort of really became true baseball. Later,
I didn't know that.
Yeah, later in that. But yeah, no, they're very, very different. Very different.
Do you know, so you were saying that a baseball is like so much literally harder. I imagine because it's smaller too. When you get hit in the batter's box with a baseball, does it feel like really bad? I assume.
Depends where you get hit. I mean, I'm renowned for jumping out of the way. I actually like to stay in there. I actually like to stay in there and actually hit. It depends. And look, you kind of train yourself to sort of take it in your arm or your shoulder. I mean, you do not want to get hit in your elbow. You get hit in the backside. It's like that's probably the best, and you'll get a big, massive bruise. So I'm not. Yeah.
See, that's why I did golf. No, I didn't. I don't have to turn my tushy and deflect. Use my cheeks to deflect pain.
just deflect anywhere where you get a little bit more muscle or padding. Just don't get hit in the bone.
Amy, you are a woman athlete. You also happen to be queer. Recently, with the premiere of the show, a lot more has been talked about regarding the queer woman who played in the All-American Girls League at the Frameline San Francisco International LGBTQ+ Film Festival. Maybelle Blair, the real life inspiration for the movie character All the Way May, great character played by Madonna. Yes. She was quoted saying she thinks 2/3 of the All-American Girls Professional Baseball League are gay. Can you speak a little bit on what it's like being on the team as a queer woman, whether that was something that ever came up throughout your career, if you noticed a change throughout? You played what, 2000? You played at least 10 years, right?
I was in the Australian team for Australian squad for about 15 years. And when I came in, I was actually married. I was not in a same-sex relationship, and basically, met my now wife on the field. So it was a very eye-opening. It was really tough time, really, really tough time for me personally. Just going through that whole realization period and things like that. It was really tough. So here I am, like in a new city, and just learning people, but also learning about myself. And it was really, really hard. And it basically over the career, look, it's been amazing. The baseball community in Australia is absolutely fantastic, and I've never received any bad treatment. Like we know we've seen that scene in the movie where people are heckling and things like that. We get the occasional, oh, there's a girl playing, bring it in, or don't, like if you get out by a girl or a girl hits you, there might be some heckling on the other team. But as far as anything that's like homophobic comments, I've never been received any of that. So I think that's been fantastic. But look, obviously there's a lot of queer women in baseball across all the levels, internationally and every level in Australia, but it's a really welcoming and inclusive environment.
Oh, wow. Thanks for letting us in on that personal side of your life, Amy. I was smiling when you first started talking about it, even though you were saying it was like personally, at the beginning, at least a little difficult, but I could help smiling because when you said you met your wife out there, I was like, oh, who's the Carson and who's the Greta?
I am definitely the Carson, and my wife is all parts of Greta. I can tell you now, watching the show, it is just the show hits hard in so many ways. It's funny because I don't want to sign myself to a character because I can't. Are you a Carson? Are you a Greta? I actually see that awakening thing with Carson. I lived that, and it's the best of times, and it's also the worst of times. It is a brutal thing to go through. But then I see the fierce white line fever of Lupe. I see the Jess not wanting to get dressed up. I see Max just wanting to be two things that she can't be anything. And I see myself in everything. And I think that's why the show is so freaking amazing, because it just, everyone can see themselves in everything. And it's just so important because we didn't have that in the movie. The movie is amazing. Don't change a thing. This is different. It's sorely overdue. But going back to that, definitely my wife's definitely the Greta. Definitely the Greta.
Oh, I love it. Wow. And I agree with everything you said. This is different than the movie, and these stories can be told too. And look at how many of us are, like you said, relating to so many different characters. It is the mark of a great show, in my opinion.
It is, yeah. And it's actually really quite funny because I know funny is probably not the word, but I know you've talked about it and we've all read, you're supposed to read the comments, and the people that are criticising the show for rewriting history. And I've kind of been thinking about it going, I actually think that there's actually a really large percentage of people who think the 1992 movie is actually history. It's almost like they've actually watched that and gone, okay, that's history. Why are you rewriting history and trying to make it work? It's like, no. We're actually going back and telling a story. It's like, I think the fact that it took 40 years to make the movie and then another 30 years to make a TV show, that itself is a crime. Like there should be far more stories being told. But I just find it hilarious that it's not, we're not rewriting a movie. We're actually telling the historical facts.
It's
that blows
ridiculous.
my mind.
Yeah. And it's, it's worse than this, but it's almost like, how there's that thing where everybody thinks a movie quote is one thing, but it's actually this slightly different thing. But for some reason, everybody thinks it's the slightly wrong quote. It's like almost like you said, like, oh, a movie from the 90s that is beloved. That's actual history. We've just decided, like, no.
Yeah. And it's like, oh, well, obviously Charlie is too much like Dottie's husband and Dove is too much like, it's no. There was actually real coaches, real husbands, real players of the league. And as soon as you make any of the stories in the current TV show, everyone's not going to go, well, that's not this person in the movie. And I'm like, that was make believe. That wasn't. It's like making me laugh and cry at the same time. So it's,
I was crying earlier. I'm editing a reaction video and I'm looking, there's a very, it has like, I think 130,000 views reaction video of this like guy who's like, he's basically just angry that they remade the movie. And I'm like, okay, somebody remade something and you're angry about it? Like that's the 10 minutes? Okay.
I think I've seen that one. There was one I watched the other day because I've been watching a few things just to kind of understand where they're coming from, and I don't understand it. But it's like the first ever movie that was made about World War II. Does that mean every single thing that gets made after that gets referred to the movie and then they rewrite it? Like,
right.
Seriously, people get like far out. It's killing me.
Okay.
Anyway.
Well, I do want to jump into the episode. But before that, I want to briefly just talk a little bit about your podcast, Inside Pitch, where you interview players, management, all kinds of people involved in baseball. Of course, that will be linked in the description. And if you are at all a fan of women and baseball, make sure you check out Inside Pitch, where I feel like you really do a good job of getting to know the people you're talking to and getting inside stories. And it's like a really conversational, relaxed environment. So listeners, make sure you are checking that out.
Thank you.
Yeah.
It's a lot of fun.
So let's go ahead and jump into the episode. We start off with a kind of interesting wartime ad for the Peaches. Apparently, even though they play baseball, they're still homemakers at heart with impeccable manners. That was like a really fun way to start the episode.
It's time to play the flute.
Yeah. Really
gotta get some flute playing in at third base there between innings.
And Lupe holding the compact in her glove.
Lupe is amazing. If you watch when they run through at the start, her little as they go through, it's amazing.
Oh, I missed that. That's awesome.
Yeah.
You know, I will say this, and I'm getting a lot of comments and DMs from people telling me how rewatchable this show is. I usually watch at least twice for the recaps, and the second time I laugh way more. You just like pick up on all these little funny moments and things.
Yeah, I'm telling you, because it's funny, I've watched it so many times that, you know, on Netflix, how they go, are you still watching? They've actually, I swear to God, Prime is going to put this thing going, are you sure you don't want to watch something else? And then and I click no, and then it comes up again and it goes, no, seriously, you need to start watching something else. For the sake of my own, I don't want to say how many times I've watched this show. It also helps my wife is away for work this week, so literally it's just been on every night.
It's just you and the Peaches every week.
It is me and
Max and Clarence and everybody.
Max and Clarence. And it's so funny. I swear, I reckon that you could watch every episode, watch a series and just focus on one character. Go, okay, I'm focusing on Jess, and just watch everything Jess does. And oh my goodness, it's the amount of stuff. Like, 'cause the first time I watched it through, it was such a different watch. Like after each episode, like after episode 1, I'm like, I don't know what I've watched, what's happening. And after every episode, and then you watch it again, it's just because they just become your family. And it's just like, you just, I don't know, sadly think you're there, you want to be there.
Oh, no, I think that's what one of the winning aspects of the series is. You want to be there with them, even though the show doesn't shy away from portraying the struggles of all of its characters. I mean, especially this episode, a lot of people are struggling. We've got people getting drafted to go to war, people whose parents are, you know, really upset with them. This was the episode I thought most. There was no coding. I really thought there was a lot of, okay, now we're going to talk about the queer thing. We're going to talk about it with Birdie, with Max, with Greta, with Joe. So,
I agree. Completely agree. It kind of shifted from, we had the baseball. They were all excited about being on the field. And now it's like, no. Now we're actually, is it a baseball story with a queer problem, or is it a queer story with a baseball problem? It now kind of shifts into that. And it's you really, as you said, the stories and this episode was, I actually feel pretty cool. Like, it's pretty cool I get to review this one because this was just amazing.
They're all kind of like it, but I really think episode 4, I felt like I watched, like a 1-hour movie.
Yes, 100%. I agree. There was so much going in this episode from just, as you said, the wall through the road trip, just everything. And like, as we know, Carson's awakening, but also just Max alone. Yeah. It's
Max is my
shift.
favorite. Yeah. I love Max's story.
That whole, and it's funny because after the first watch, I'm sitting there going, okay, it's almost like because they get 50% of the screen time and there's only 2, and then you've got the whole team you have to tell in that other left side. And it's like after the first watch, I kind of went, I needed more backstories from the Peaches, which when you re-watch it, you realize there are actually more backstories than you think. But I think because you get so invested in Clarence and Max and that whole storyline, it's like, you know what, let's just have 2 shows. Let's have 2-hour episodes. More.
There could be a spin-off, but I think for now
I'm hoping for Lupe and Jess spin-off.
Yes. Oh, they have great like buddy chemistry, right? Lupe and Jess.
They are. I can't, like, every episode there's just Like this episode when she's banging the hat against the wall and she just walks in and comes in like just as has the best lines.
Jess
too.
is like, are you better now? Yeah, I am. Thank you. I am better now.
Just the whole exchange about their dead weight and the sinking ships that they've been on. Like, I just can't get enough of those two. I need an edit of just Jess and Lupe.
Oh, that would be awesome. I hope we get that. Well, we also get at the beginning of the episode, we get some dirty, rotten electric guitar while Carson and Greta make out in various places around the grounds. But buzzkill, Carson effed up. She brought Greta to a makeout spot everyone knows about. Amy, have you ever had a problem where you couldn't find a place to get some privacy, get your makeout on?
Yes. This episode was all far too real. I think when my wife and I first got together and we were on a way on a trip, it was this is exactly what it was. It was like,
wow,
where are we going? What do you do? Like, as soon as the doors open, everything has to be hidden. So there was just so many scenes in this movie that were like, I was smiling, but kind of remembering good and bad times at the same time.
Are you one of the researchers on this show that they got the scripts from? Are you giving them this?
Oh, I tell you, it feels like it at times. But just the thing I love about it though is that it shows Greta's that whole vulnerability, like her rules and all of that. And it really shows, it just shows that Carson, she's lived in a world, she can go out and she can hold hands, she can do whatever she wants. So she's full on there, and Greta's like, well, hold on, you don't know this world and we need to be careful. So I just love that balance of it all. But the first few minutes, as I was saying to a mate, it was scoring on the field, scoring off the field. It was just like that whole
it was a great sequence. It was super high energy, really back and forth.
And the baseball was cool too. Yeah. It was just say I'm the nerd. I go, I'm enjoying both sides.
I was going to ask, how have you been finding the baseball aspect of the show? You were saying earlier, we were just chatting a few minutes before we went on, that you were actually impressed with the job the actors were doing.
Yeah. They actually had coaches in. They actually went through full-on training camps. They were training 3 days a week, and they actually, I think Darcy Carter the other day in a podcast was talking about how they actually became a team before they actually were the team on show. And they actually got taught. They had some of the US women's team down, and basically went through everything. So there's some decent ball players. I'll tell you what, if anyone want to come out and play, Doncaster Baseball Club here in Melbourne, if you want to come out, Darcy Carter and Abby Jacobson,
you're extending an invitation.
I will. You can stay in my house. You can. I'll put you up, man. Because there's some swings. Some of the swings are great. And baseball's hard because you've got to be able to hit, field, throw, run, steal. Then you've got all of the sequences. You've got to make sure if they hit to right field, you've got to make sure the people it's not just a movie about someone running. It's a movie about everything, and there's some CGI which I kind of I find certain CGI is hard to swallow, but I understand why they've done that. And Jamie Babbitt talked about how the scenes, they wanted to make it so cinematic and they wanted to make it full on, and it is the story of the boat, because you remember baseball. I love baseball. It's my life, as we've discussed. It's boring. Baseball goes for 3.5 hours. The ball is in play.
It's the best background music ever. A baseball game.
It is, and it's the ball's in play for 9 minutes, and of those 9 minutes, it's not spectacular plays. So you can see what they've done to write that stuff in the storyline. But other than that, man, I'd sign up pretty much any of them. I think it's great. I think they've done a really good job.
What did you think of Carson's swing? I thought I was impressed with Abby Jacobson's swing.
Yeah, there's the coach in me. There's a little bit. I'm like, okay, you need to put that. Jess opens, Jess opens the shoulder too much. And Max doesn't leave with her arm enough when she throws. And there's a couple of things I would have stolen a bit earlier. It's so hard not to coach. But then I watch a basketball movie and I'm just like, man, I don't know, that's great. But no, there's some there's some bloody good swings. I understand Darcy played.
Oh really?
She played softball. Abby played as well. So, there's some good fielders in there. And look, you just have to take a leap of faith. I think they ask you to. It's as I said, it's very it's very hard to just make a whole bunch of actors into baseballers, and they've done a bloody good job of it.
Yeah, I agree. It's received. I think I mentioned this in one of the other earlier recaps that some people were talking about the baseball, but I agree with you. It's not like it's a distraction to me. And frankly, I'm like used. Maybe it's different sports, but I'm used to like I'm so hard on any golf movie. I'm like, oh, you're terrible. You've never played golf. Your swing is the worst. You look like Charles Barkley. So again, I'm not a baseball player, but I trust you, and they're selling me on it. I so often can't tell that they're using stunt doubles or whatever,
Well, I
so
think if they've gone and got a whole bunch of, like, let's just say the whole USA women's baseball team, and then just put them on the field and then tried to make it look like it was Darcy and Jess and whatever, it just would have been like, no, just don't.
yeah.
And it's like, so what they've done, the mix of CGI, and as I said, there's a couple of plays, and me being the critique as a coach, there's a couple of things that go, oh, but overall, and it's funny because on the first watch, I'm like, I want more baseball. But then, like, this episode, you kind of go, I don't need more baseball. I'm actually good. Like, the storyline away from the baseball field, it's kind of like I didn't need more. But I think that the way they do it, and the way that like particularly at the start of this episode with the whole on the field, off the field, and then being able to have some affection on the field, and that was sort of a way they could actually, and I've lived that, they could actually have that public display of affection on a baseball field because they couldn't have the other side of things. And I'm getting all deep here. I think they played that really, really well. Like, all the parallel storylines on the baseball field or training of what they're going on off the field is just so brilliantly done.
Amy, I asked my last guest, Ida, if she had ever flirted in church. I am going to ask you, you already answered this, but so you have flirted in a live baseball game. You're like, hold up, I got to get my flirt on.
No, well, I should go back a step. I actually grew up in the church. I'm actually from a church family, like church every Sunday, everything. So it's kind of like, yeah. Yeah, no. Oh, yeah, look, obviously my wife and I are still flirting on the field.
Like, oh, yeah, I'm flirting as I hit the ball over the fence.
Yeah. Oh, I wish I could. No. Yeah, no, for sure. Yeah, on the field, her and I all the time. Yeah.
What's the best flirt? Like a little wink as you're walking to the plate, but you better hit a good one. If you wink and then you whiff, not hot.
Oh yeah, no, you can't be calling a shot and then struck out. No, you can't go past a little pat on the bum, pat on the ass.
Got it.
Am I allowed to say that?
Oh yeah, you can curse. Does anybody ever use it as like a distraction? Like if you got a batter up, is the catcher ever like, oh, hey there? But really, no. I don't care. I'm trying to get you to whiff the ball.
Nah, there's none of that. Like like baseball's pretty, like, particularly obviously Australian World Cup levels. Nah, nothing, none of that kind of stuff happens.
We were playing real baseball, Amanda.
Yeah. Oh look, there's relationships on teams. There's relationships between international teams. There's people that are out, people that aren't, people that don't know they're gay yet. There's heaps of, but no, that as soon as we hit the field, it's game on. Like, yeah. And then obviously when you play club level, it's a little bit different. But yeah, no, it's just stays pretty clean.
I was the one who didn't know yet that you described. Other people knew. My coach's husband knew. I didn't know.
Yeah, I didn't know. As I said, I grew up in the 90s watching that show, and then started watching a lot of women's tennis. And in retrospect, my family's just like, all those posters of Steffi Graf on your wall didn't give anything away. And I'm like, no, I just really liked watching female athletes. And then, as I said, when I came to baseball, I'm just like, what is this? This is like my team. This is amazing. And it's, and then obviously 20 something years later, it's like the power, not the power, but the influence that we have and the ability that we have, as particularly my wife and I, in our relationship, we've been able to be role models for others and other people to be able to just come up and even not even come out. Like, they don't have to come out. They are who they are, and it's sort of like we've been lucky to sort of be that kind of.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
I love that. Okay, so away from the peaches, Max has come into some money recently with her new factory job, but Tony is still super anti Max working at the factory. She was like, they're going to fire you when the war ends. Speaking of the war, back at Clance and Guy's place, Guy is depressed for obvious reasons. He got the draft notice. And Clance spends the whole episode trying to cheer Guy up, somewhat successfully by the end. But obviously, they have that really touching scene. It's just really tough because this is something that these guys actually had to deal with. And for Guy's character, he's having to go fight possibly for a country where he can't even buy fish at a store run by white people, so.
Yeah, obviously not being Australian, it's obviously that we're aware of everything that's happened in that, but it's the way they've written that and it comes across is like Clarence is every episode you like Clarence is the star of the episode. She's just amazing, but that whole storyline is just brutal. Just to watch. Yeah,
it's tough.
Yeah, so we'll see how that unfolds. I hope it's not going down the way that we.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah,
me too. That's too much sadness.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, the Peaches finally have a road game. I loved this. We got to see them on the bus. It reminded me of the '92 movie. I bet you might have some stories from traveling with some of your teams.
Yeah, look, going away with like 20 bunch of girls is just, they're the things I miss from playing. Like I miss the baseball and I miss the training. I miss all that, but I miss going away. And it's like, there's 20 girls, you don't get along with everyone. You've got your groups, you've got your pairs, you've got everything. But it's just like, particularly at the start, we were just like a bunch of girls. We're playing baseball. We paid for everything. We don't get, like, that's why the contrast of when the Peaches all got their paychecks in that episode, I don't trust paper money. It was like, I was so proud, but like jealous, just like, oh my God, because we paid for everything. Like,
wow. There's no even like prize money?
No. We paid every year like 10 grand or more just to play for Australia and things like that. So when in this episode, when Max gets her paycheck and the first thing she's like, I'm going to buy baseball shoes or anything to do with baseball. It's like, that's me. That was us. We worked to pay for baseball. So when she's like that, I'm like, yep, I just spent all my money on baseball. But yeah, the trips away were amazing. Just, yeah, it was awesome. They were serious, but there was a lot of fun.
That's awesome. Well, I spent all my money on candy. Let's see. Carson she's got flashcards about their opponents. I assume this is the normal role for the catcher to be taking the notes and studying because they're the one calling the pitches. Is that right? Or no?
Not to lead it. Okay. I mean, the captain is, the catcher is sort of captain, but they need to know a lot of stuff, but they get guided by the coach. I just love the fact that Dub just comes in and goes, thanks, and takes it all. He's such a dick.
Oh, yeah, takes her hard work.
Yeah, it was very cute, like that whole nerdy side of Carson.
Yeah. Speaking of Coach Porter, this episode I wasn't sure. Is Dove Porter an a-hole who doesn't care, or is he somebody who loves the game and he wants to do right by his career and the ladies? To me, he was a mystery this episode.
You're right. It's kind of, I think it's really clunky, the whole Bill Dove thing, and it's hard because Bill Offerman, you want, like, he's so awesome, and it's kind of like you didn't know where we were going. You didn't know if it was Jimmy Dugan. I don't know. I think ultimately he says in one scene where he's using it to get himself back on the map. He's using the women's league to try and get another gig somewhere else, and I think they start to win. So he's kind of like, oh, cool. He takes the cards. He's trying to take the glory, and as soon as they start to win, that's when he gets noticed, and it's kind of like this. Yeah, ultimately, the whole thing's a joke. From the first scene when he does the magic trick behind Carson, you can tell that the whole thing is a joke to him.
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah, I wonder
that's
if that's
how
why
I see it.
Yeah,
like I've been coached by the men that we've been coached by have been unbelievably amazing. And it's like just seeing some of the way that he treated the players, it's clear that he thinks they're a complete joke. I mean, he takes a shining to a few, but he sort of like wants to make Lupe himself, and there's things like that. But I think it's I think
he might not be doing it on purpose, but it feels like he's trying to ruin Lupe. Feels like he's going to ruin Lupe's career.
Yeah, making someone throw a pitch they can't throw, or not like overthrowing their arm, and she's going to like break herself. Yeah, it's brutal, and there's not that many players on the team, so you look after your good ones.
I mean, I don't have this knowledge. It seems like if you have to throw a ball with your fingers all weird, like a forkball requires, is that part of what hurt her, basically, doing this over and over again?
Yeah, I mean, obviously throwing is really bad for your shoulder, regardless of how you're throwing, just normal throwing. But when you start throwing curveballs in particular, when you've got a flick and things like that, you can actually start, because it's not just the fingers, it's the way your arm moves, it's the way your elbow and your shoulder move. So you can actually have like really bad elbow issues. You can have bad rotator cuff shoulder issues. So there's an endless list of things that can go wrong. So not only do you start throwing something you're not used to, and then overthrowing, so repetitive, it's just all parts of like, and you can see Carson can see that, but then the whole Lupe just wants to, she's there to play, she's there to win. She feels like if she's on the bench, she's not going to, and I get that. Like you do, every single player I've ever played with or against has hidden an injury at some point in their life. You just want to play baseball. You don't want to.
And the show rightly portrays, in my opinion, how it seems like the coach almost encourages that behavior initially. I felt that way most of my career, like, suck it up, you know?
He does. He says, are you sore or you hurt? And we say the same thing. Are you sore or you hurt? Are you tired or you hurt? Are you broken or you like? And you can imagine, this is there. They keep going on about, they don't know if it's real. They don't know how long it's going to last. They know they're not winning. There's no one in the stands. It's like they got one shot, and they don't know if that one shot is that one game or that one season or that one whatever. I would, if I was back then.
Who wouldn't be doing that same thing?
I'd be doing that. I'd be wearing the dress, and B, I'd be playing as injured. I'd have one leg and I'd be out there. Like it's, yeah, I can completely see where Lupe was coming from.
Okay, Carson somehow manages to pull off switching rooms so her and Greta can be together. And when she pulls it off, I don't know if you saw this, but Carson gets this huge grin on her face. Amy, aren't we supposed to try to be cool? Like, have you ever been there when a girl makes you smile and in that way that you can't stop smiling? Like, I've been there.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. No. Yeah. I'd like to say I'm still there every day. No, when she, hopefully my wife listens to this. Yeah, like when they're singing Clementine, and she's like, she almost like becomes this kid where she's just like singing because she's so happy that she's full on out Cheryl, and poor Cheryl's just, she's just, everyone's just been moved around, and she gets the room, and it's like, that's my favorite scene when they're walking into the place, and Terry goes, "What are you smiling at?" She goes, "I just love God." And she goes, "Same. I'll take you for a tour." And you see Greta in the background kissing herself, and it's just like, yeah, she's so proud of herself. I think maybe this is, you know what, unpopular opinion.
Okay,
this episode's the kind of episode where I kind of went, is Carson too manipulative in that? And does it frustrate me? I kind of think, like, but then I put myself back into that situation where it's just like, she knew she wanted Greta and she had to try and do whatever she could. And Greta's sort of like not trying to be too much, and Greta's trying to be safe.
They only have so long.
So yeah, I kind of was just like, I don't know, but then no, I can totally see why Carson's done it. She only had a couple of days in the nunnery, she had to get it done. So
I mean, you said it. They are in a convent. Okay, this is great writing. Like, bravo, League of Their Own writers' room. This is going to be amazing. Like, as soon as I see the convent, I'm like, this is going to be some great TV I'm about to watch.
Yeah, and then the nun out the front's like, you're only allowed to talk about, you're allowed to pray, and you're allowed to talk about God. And I'm just like, okay, there's some other stuff that's going to be going on in there that I don't think they're yeah. Anyway,
I gotta say, I've been consistently surprised at Carson's aggressiveness, both in her attempts to reject Greta and subsequently this episode is mostly her attempting to bang Greta all episode. She's just all over the place, but she's just, to me, so aggressive in whatever she decides that day's goal is going to be. But then it seems like she gets herself so worked up, she like ruins the moment between her and Greta.
I know, but it's sort of great from Greta, because I think she says to her, "Oh, I'm sorry, was that too much?" Because I think Greta's trying to not be too much, because I think she's gone down this path a lot. Like the scene where they married and she turns around and goes, "A lot of them were," and it's like, so you kind of get this understanding that maybe Greta was and still is a player, but I actually think that she's actually seen something in Carson and gone, I think you might be the one. So she's actually slowing it down, because I don't think she wants to push Carson away. That's the way I see it.
Do you
That's
see that
seriously.
even though at the end of the episode we get Joe saying, "Hey, this looks just like you and Dana," I think it was the name. You still think Greta sees Carson as maybe her like soulmate or something?
Yeah, I do. I think the Joe Greta relationship is just awesome. I think they are just just looking out for each other. But I think the thing that got it for me was when they were sitting and having their little floor picnic. And she sort of said, "This is just an adventure. We're all going to go off back to Charlie, and I'm going to go to California with Joe, and we're just going to remember this adventure." And there was this scene where she eats this grape, and I think that she's actually telling Carson to try and convince herself because she doesn't want that to happen. Because I think that this episode is the episode where she's like, "I really like you, and I can see what's happening, but I've got to be careful because I've seen this before. Like all these married women have just gone back." That's my take from it. I reckon that Greta is kind of like, "Yeah, you're the one," and Carson's just a rabbit in a nunnery. So, yeah.
Okay.
That's how I see it.
I think you might be right on that one. We'll see. And then after the initial fun with Greta and Carson, we get this fun scene where they like slide over like a 90s R&B music video over several different
It is,
rooms.
isn't it?
And we get an interesting conversation between Shirley and Maybelle, who are, like I said, this at this point they're actually talking about, is Joe queer? That's where my never trust a woman who loves a sandwich reference at the beginning of the pod came from. Actually, I
She
gotta.
does talk a lot about Katharine Hepburn in pants. It's just Maybelle is just every character has every line, but yeah, the Katharine Hepburn in pants thing.
Wait,
just,
My mother said, never trust a woman who loves a sandwich.
I thought that line was hilarious. I feel like maybe it may be true. I love sandwiches. So does my wife. Do all queer women eat sandwiches? Is that a thing?
I love sandwiches, so maybe that's it. I'm queer and I eat a sandwich, so if it quacks like a duck, if it talks, it must be.
Shirley's mom has the wisdom. Then we come back to Greta and Carson, and we get this scene that I think you referenced earlier. And it's when Greta and Carson are having some snacks, and Carson actually asks Greta why she left with that guy the first night they kissed. I'll actually play this one too. This will be a little bit better here.
Whenever I'm starting something new with someone, I always like to make sure that I'm seen on a man's arm. Does that make sense? Yeah. It's just one of the rules that I have to keep myself safe.
So one of the rules to keep herself safe. I feel like this is a huge moment for Greta's character in the show.
Huge.
It,
I
it
think it's
explains the mystery of those beginning episodes.
well, it was so funny because my wife watched the first episode with me, and that after that scene at the end of the episode, she hated Greta. She just turned around and went, "What? She called her the C word," and she's just like, "No." And she left and she didn't want to watch the episodes. She's since come back and we've watched it the 27th time. I've watched it too. But anyway. Yes, I'm still there. I'm still wanting to. And it's like interesting because I was like, each episode the first time watch, I'm just like, what the hell have you are? That's, and then you kind of, it evolves. But this episode there, it's kind of like, wow. And it just makes you so like, I just think imagine growing up then, imagine being queer and knowing that.
I mean, they mention it in the episode. I can't remember which character mentions lobotomies in a positive light. It was life or death, you're like, because if you can't even, if they mess with your brain, that's, yeah, as you said, I can't imagine.
Yeah, and they just get arrested and names put in newspaper. I can't even. And the fact that she has to, everything is hidden. They have to go to get a road trip room together and lock door. It just, yeah. And that's the whole thing about how powerful, when you talked about Mabel Blair, comes out when she's 95.
Wow.
And it's like, she played in the All American Girls Professional Baseball League, and she was closeted for that long. So anyone that goes, oh, why is this show so woke? Why have they rewritten the history? When someone comes out at 95, well, there you go.
Yes.
It's all you need to know. And there's plenty that didn't.
And good for her, It's never too late.
Maybelle's a superstar. She's looking for a girlfriend too.
Oh my God, that's amazing!
Yeah,
wait a sec, that's amazing.
Yeah,
hey, we might have some listeners who are going to be up in all the way May's DMs tonight. Heard you were looking. Okay. Let's see. Within that conversation, Carson, like you said, says, she's afraid, and then Greta says, "You will go back to your life." This is when, like you said, when we learn Greta has done this before. I feel like after this, I was like, Carson has to go back to her life, but Greta and Joe get to go to California. What's Carson going back to? Like her choir group?
She's going back to the farm. Never been to a farm. Yeah, I think, as I said, I reckon that's Greta trying to just basically, that's the story she has. She's done this before. She knows what it's like. She's just basically saying, let's enjoy this. Let's rob the bank. And I wonder whether the rob the bank storyline is like, we're going to rob the bank on and off the field. Because I think she knew. Yeah, no, they definitely robbed it off the field. That's for sure. So maybe that's what that is. And yeah, I just reckon that whole scene from Greta is so, it's hard to watch, but it just shows a really awesome side of her, in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree. It shows, like you said, it wasn't just games. Like I kind of thought she was playing. It wasn't. Maybe she was playing sometimes games with Carson, but it wasn't just that. There was more to it.
Yeah, and you're right. I think there were games. I mean, the whole scene from the previous episode at the dinner, at the date, the way that she full on played Greta, like played Carson and threw all the lines back at her, that was, it was hard and it was brutal, but it was bloody awesome.
Yeah, brilliant. Right. I was cool with it.
Yeah.
So back at the factory, Clance has gotten a job with Max, who learns that Fox, the pitcher, has quit. So that's her opening to possibly be able to pitch for the team.
Yep.
Then at the Peaches Road game, the Comets get absolutely mollywopped. Carson notices Coach Porter leaving, and this is the last we'll see of Coach Porter in episode 4. But the Peaches need a coach. Sorry, what was that?
So he's got another gig. He's off. He's used the Peaches and he's, so she's left him.
But it is decided Lupe and Carson will co-coach the team. So I thought this was going to be a disaster, but initially it worked really well for them.
Yeah, I think you start to see a sign of Lupe that I think she's good. She's a coach. Like I think she's like full on white line fever on the field, but I think she actually just wants to. She's there to win. She's playing to win. I think Carson, as a catcher, catchers make good coaches because they've got to see the whole game. They could call whole games, so it kind of makes sense. But my vote was with Greta because she's tall and you can see her from everywhere. So.
When in doubt, vote the tallest girl to be the coach.
Oh, that'd be...
Finally, we get our big hookup scene. Amy, I gotta say, the first time I hooked up with a lady, I was not as confident as Carson was. I was not like grabbing her face. I was a hot mess.
I had no idea what I was doing. Absolutely. I still don't. No, no, I had no idea. I legit was like, what the, I don't know. I got all these parts. I don't know what to do. No. Yeah, she was like, robbing the bank, like she was taking all the gold and all the cash.
Greta was pumping her up, telling her how great she is. All of a sudden Carson's like, oh, I got this.
I got this, but I'm just going to forget how to breathe. No, she was going for it, just with the crucifix on the wall, nice little thing in the background.
Oh yeah, I love that.
No, it was it was quite most action I think that nunnery's seen in a while.
I don't know. Sometimes I hear nuns.
Yeah, that is true.
Amy, is it a big difference playing baseball at night versus during the day?
Yes, huge. And depending on the quality of the lights, I mean, you can play, like we played World Cups and they've been like full on major league stadium lights. They're amazing. And then sometimes you play club and you're like, there's a light out or there's an angle of a light that's not great. Fun fact though, the women in the All-American Girls Professional Baseball League did play a night game at Wrigley Field. This is actually
Whoa.
this is based on a true story, and it's like, again, don't want to rewrite history because, but they always talk about the first night game at Wrigley Field was 1988. It actually was 1943. They actually had a women's war, so all the women's service women, they actually played like softball games, and they actually had like 7,000 people there, and the women, so an all-star game of the actual All-American Girls Professional Baseball League played on that field. And all the reports coming out of the game was the lights were terrible and the girls could hardly see, but they all just went, we don't care. Like, we'll wear a bathing suit if you ask us. We'll play under that half decent lights if you put them on for us. So they actually played that. So this is kind of, again, the writers and the researchers in this show have just done such an amazing job at, again, being woke and rewriting history. Actually,
right.
Yeah,
they're so amazing at being so accurate and how woke to be accurate. I will. And so, do you think this plot line comes from that in your research?
Yeah.
Do you think that's where they got that the girls had trouble back then playing in the lights?
I think. Yeah, look, I think it was pretty obvious when they were turning the lights out. It was freaking dark. I'm like, not sure why I took them to the 5th inning, but look, forget that. I think, it's probably, it sped the storyline up a bit. So I think definitely, like I was reading that quite a while ago. I've got a heap of books on it. And I remember as soon as the night game started playing, I'm like, oh my God, this is like that game.
Cool.
As I said, they would play in a bathing suit, they'll play in a skirt and play under crappy lights. They get the shot. I would have done the same thing. 100%. We trained. I remember one Australian team, we trained at a stadium here in Melbourne and they didn't turn the lights on. We're in the dark. So all these scenes of them training in the dark and playing under crappy lights, we still did it. We did it 20 years ago. So this is the whole thing about all this stuff that they went through. It's real. It really is.
Wow. That's awesome. It's so cool to have you on and to say, like, even though it was, different time periods, so much, like you said, is real and accurate and authentic.
Yeah. I mean, as we know, there's artistic license and you've got to take a leap with the director, and there's a few things you like, but ultimately they have kept so true. I think the only shame is that it's taken so long for this to be made, and it's 80 years since the league started, and unfortunately there's not a lot of the players still with us, and it's like I just wish that more players could actually seen their true self.
Yeah.
I mean, they got the movie, we all got the movie, but the fact that there's only been these two things, although have you seen the TV show they brought out in the 90s?
Oh, I have not. I saw it mentioned somewhere.
Go
Maybe it was
on YouTube.
Twitter or something. Is it like, how is it? That good, huh?
It's got canned laughter, and someone's recorded on a VHS and it's been put onto YouTube. So it's square, it's really bad vision, it's really bad sound. It's not great. It got culled after 6 episodes. And after the first few minutes, you're just like, how did it not get culled after 6 minutes? It's not great.
Okay. But now that you say that, I have to watch it.
You have to do it. I've done it. I wish I didn't, but I'm glad I did.
We should all do it.
It's not.
You regret it. But
it's so bad. It's just because the movie was so good, and you kind of like they redid the movie. It was like Marla Hooch was in it. You had some people in it. Like everyone that was Jimmy. Same people. Dottie. The whole first episode, they go back and get Dottie to come back and play, and it's like, well, you're not Gina Davis. Here, it's like they're not redoing the movie. They're not remaking it. It's going back to the actual storyline. So. That's what I
was initially disappointed because I love the movie so much, and this is absolutely the right call. I would have hated it if we would have all just been like, "Oh, she's not as good as Gina Davis." Yeah, so
we have both. Why do people we get both? I mean, the only thing is they called it A League of Their Own, so everyone's like, "Oh, it's a remake." It's like I don't know what else they could have called it. Women's baseball show.
As Aaron said, they needed it. They needed it for that's probably how they sold the freaking show. Is Amazon Prime giving them the budget to hire all these researchers and make it as cinematic and beautiful and all that and do as authentic as they did? Probably not if they don't have it be A League of Their Own.
Yeah, you're right. And God, they've done a good job, man, with the sets, the scenes, the everything. They've just done it's an amazing job.
The costumes, everything's great.
Yeah.
We learn through Shirley and Lupe, the Comets are cheating. Amy, have you ever encountered this cheating in baseball?
Oh, not really. It's hard to cheat on a baseball field. Like people try and scuff up the ball, or you can do hidden ball tricks, but you can't really cheat on a baseball field, like, because everything's there. I've never, turning off lights. That's
Yeah,
next
after
level.
they figured out in the 1940s, the old light tricks don't work. What else can you do?
Yeah, no, I haven't really had any cheating. Well, not that I've known of. If I have, they've done a good job. Well done.
So different than golf. It's like so easy to cheat in golf.
Really? Is that
Mhm.
like moving your ball closer, or
Yeah, anything, improving your lie, not counting a stroke. There are all kinds of things I'm not thinking of.
wow.
Yeah. And usually, unless you're, especially unless you're in like the biggest tournament of the year and there's constant spectators following you, it's like an honor system kind of. So,
Wow. Well, there you go. I didn't know that.
but good news, the Peaches turned the game around. I feel like this was very realistic. Sometimes all it takes is just one little victory and you can totally turn the momentum around in a game.
Yep. Yeah, you can. Sometimes like your coach might get ejected and the team goes, yeah, and they fire up, or you get shitty because the other team's cheating or someone's slid in too hard. You're like, I'm gonna get them. They just need a spark, and they do. And Carson and Lupe working really well together, and I love the little nod back to A League of Their Own when they're doing the signals together. It's a little bit different to Jimmy and
Dottie
doing fighting, and I think that's kind of like the thing I like. It's like the nod back to the show, but it's not the identical to the show. It's kind of like oh, that's the scene from there.
I hadn't thought about that. In the movie, they're like fighting, and then Dottie's like, well, then be the coach if you want to. But in this scene, Lupe and Carson, they're doing the exact same thing. They are on it together. Love it.
Yeah, it's cool.
Later in the episode, Max is preparing for her tryout with her dad. We're seeing a nice moment, and this is getting a little bit past that scene, but I really found myself empathizing and loving Max's dad in this episode. Whereas Tony is sort of obviously struggling with Birdie and Max and doesn't want Max to play baseball and all this stuff. Max's dad is like accepting and loving. He even has a line when she's overhearing their fight up where he says like, so what if she is, whatever they're saying she is. So loving all this.
Edgar's a superstar. My dad, who passed away a couple of years ago, like my parents weren't like pushy parents. I just played baseball, and dad used to he'd drive. You want to play? I'll get you a team. You need to go an hour to the other side of the city? I'll drive you there. You need this, you need that. Like he used to set up a circle on my wall at home. I threw exactly the way that Max did. And dad would record video games. It's like he's so supportive, and like the Edgar Max relationship is just so cool. Like it's just really awesome for dads to be supportive of their daughters, particularly in that era, playing sport and just wanting to give it a go.
Right. It must have been so odd as they are showing. Like Tony, Max's mom, is like, I don't even think she's wrong. Up until this point, like this really is going to be impossible. You're a woman, and not only that, you're Black. So, Tony's not necessarily being evil, although this episode did not show Tony's best side. But yeah,
it doesn't. But she just wants the best for her daughter. Like she's like had to. They think she's a man to get the shop, to get the bank loan. They think she's a man, Tony. And it's like she can see that. And I think that she sees that she's a woman, she's Black, so she ends up being queer in the 1940s.
She probably thinks it's a death sentence for her daughter.
And probably it's just horrifying to even think about it. So yeah, like you kind of go, oh, Tony and Edgar's awesome, but you understand both stories. But yeah, Edgar is an unsung hero, just like Gary. Gary is.
Are you a big Gary fan?
Max treats Gary like absolute crap, and Gary is. The thing that stands out with me with Gary is he doesn't have a go. He's not criticizing her as a baseballer. He keeps referring to the fact that he's playing on the men's team and you're a woman. He's not actually saying, he never says at any stage during the show, you're not good enough to be on the team. He just keeps saying that, well, no, this is a men's team. You're a woman. And I think that's really important that he's just basically saying it's not about the fact you're not good enough, because I think he thinks that she is good enough. It's just like, you're a man, you're a woman, this is the world. That's what this is. But Gary he's a trooper, man, because Max treats him poorly. Understand it, like Max is working out some shit. We get it. But Gary, man, I'm all for Gary. Team Gary.
Okay. Team Gary. You heard it, folks. I liked that scene between so we have the double date to kind of cheer Guy up. And I liked so Max is really angry when she learns that Gary's been given the position of pitcher already. But then it was kind of a funny moment within the struggle that this plot line is, when Clance is like, my allegiance is to you, Max. I had no idea.
That line, she's just like, pushes the husband out of the way. My allegiance. I know, that whole, God, Max and Clarence. It's just so awesome.
Yeah, I'm in the Clance fan club. She's awesome.
Yeah, she's amazing. She's on the writing crew for the show.
Oh, I did not know that.
Yeah. No, she's amazing. She does everything. She's the triple threat.
Okay, cool. That's awesome. At the end, speaking of Gary, we get this scene at the end where Gary is just trying to salvage their relationship, something from this date, from this, this ongoing, I don't know what it is, between him and Max. He wants it to be more, and he's like, oh, we could be like Clance and Guy. And Max responds very powerfully, we will never be like them.
I think there's so many layers to that line. I think she's starting to realize that she's not, I don't think she knows where she is, what she is. I think that the whole show is about her finding that out. Because you said before, like, she's angry about this. Max is just angry because she wants to be a baseballer. She can't. And it's like she's got to work 2 jobs because she's trying to please someone and she's trying to like suck up to someone else. And then it's like she is having all these feelings, like her whole sexuality. And it's kind of like, she's just like, I'm never going to be like them. And it's kind of like this whole thing where it's like, it's just, you can understand why she's angry. Because it's just like, she doesn't know. Yeah. She doesn't know where is she in life, in the world?
Inside the Peaches clubhouse, Shirley comes over and grits her teeth and does that whole through gritted teeth thing. She says something like, my gaydar is going off every time Joe is in the room.
Joe's queer. She's queer. Yeah, Shirley's, I think she's onto something. she's got a good gaydar. You're not wrong there.
Isn't that
Captain
good?
Obvious? Well done.
I feel like we all suspected Joe.
Yeah. So, I'm not sure she's going to give me my lottery ticket numbers. I think she's picking out the obvious there, but thanks, Shells. Any more pearls of wisdom there, Shirley?
Back at the screws practice, Max gets brushed off by the coach, but she figures out how to get her tryout. She puts 2 weeks worth of wages on no man there being able to hit off her on the line. Amy, I was a little confused by this scene. Shouldn't she have lost this bet like immediately when somebody hits off her, or do I not understand baseball bets or tryouts or what's going on here?
Yeah, I think she just wants a shot, and I think she's basically just going, you know what, I'm actually just going to pay for my chance, which is, again, we've paid for everything. It's kind of like, I'm just put some money down so they can't say no. And I think that coach doesn't seem like he's a bad guy. I think he's like, you know what, have a go. And she throws that first one, and it's kind of like, okay, just give me another one. And it's like, then he gets the other one. And then Gary again is like, let her have another one. I think that's the moment where she's just so, it's really heartbreaking, that scene, because she gets her first opportunity. It's this glass shattering, I'm not good enough. I have built myself up in my backyard dreams against a brick wall, and I truly believed I was amazing, and I had to, because that was the only thing I knew, and I had to tell myself. And I spent so many years in my backyard growing up when I had nowhere to play, and I was practicing my Fred McGriff swings. I was like pretending to be left hand like Ken Griffey. You live in a fantasy world because you didn't have women's leagues, and she's not allowed to do anything. And I think that moment where she just runs off,
See,
It's
I think
harsh.
I may have bought in too hard to the Max fan club because I had a little bit different interpretation of the scene. I just
Hmm.
assumed she is good enough and that and maybe this has a little bit with how they marketed the show, but I just assumed, and I'm not spoiled, I've only seen up to episode 4. I just assumed that she like whiffed the audition or the tryout or whatever you want to call it. Do you think here she still has work to be done? W- do you w- how do you see the scene? Is she? Am I
Yeah,
incorrectly reading that?
no,
Is
no,
it
no,
a
no. And
whiff or
I think this is the great thing about the show. I love hearing everyone's different interpretations because I think you have to remember that she's playing against men. So the fact is that this whole air quotes, she's failed. She's also playing against men. I've played against men and it's hard. They're faster, they're stronger. They're bigger and they do things
physically?
easier because that's just what it is. So she's had her first shot against men. And I think that she didn't choke as much. I think that she's just worked herself into, she's
Is it
like pitching
mental?
angry.
Is it up
Yeah,
here? Okay,
I reckon she's like
psychological.
trying to prove she's angry. There's so much going on with her and she's gone. So now she thinks she's a failure. It's like, well, no, you had one shot, you threw 3 pitches against men. Like you're not shit. It's just that's not your team.
Mm.
It's
Okay.
kind of like just because you have air quotes failed in men's baseball doesn't mean it's yeah, I think there's a lot going on. I'm not a psychoanalyst, I think she's just in an absolute tiz. And I think first of all, baseball critiquing me, A, she just walked out there and I don't think she did any warm up pitches.
Right, no warm up.
And B, she was wearing like flat shoes. She had no cleats. She had no nothing. It was sandy. She would have been
Can't
slipping
get her
around.
footing. Okay.
Get her some time in the bullpen. Get her warmed up. Get her with proper cleats. Get her in there. And I reckon she'd dominate. It was
Okay.
all just a bit rushed.
All right. Well, afterwards, Max, of course, feeling really down, goes to her best friend Clance's house to make her feel better. And Clance, in my opinion, rightly tells her she's not being a very good friend.
Yeah, big time. Best. That was yeah. That was poor. Read the balcony from Max.
Mhm.
Because I don't think Max is selfish. She just doesn't know who she is without baseball. And now it's kind of like in that particular time in baseball's over, she's gone to her best mate and she's just like, dude, my husband's going to war. I get it.
Yeah.
She was justified totally.
Back at the final Peaches game of the episode, the whole team has a timeout on the pitcher's mound. Carson and Lupe get into a physical fight with each other and it turns into a brawl. I love this scene. I thought it was great. I wish it had lasted longer. What did you think?
Favorite moment is when Joe threw one of the players just like whoop, and threw up like I'm just like threw her like she was a baseballer. I'm like, Jesus. Yeah, it was it was I've never been involved in a brawl, but I've been involved in a lot of fights there's been a lot of fights in men's baseball, and usually what happens is if I'm the only girl on the team or there's maybe another girl on my team, what happens is we always run off into the dugout. We just wait for the fight to be over and then we come back. Because like, what are we going to do? There's a whole bunch of guys.
Yeah.
I've never seen a fight in women's baseball. And I wasn't a fan of it because I don't want to see them fight. I understand why they wrote it in and why they did it. But from a baseball perspective, I wasn't a fan. I don't like to see it. But the actual fight, like, yeah, it's like Joe and the whole thing. And it's like, because there was a fight in the movie too.
Yeah, I liked it because it was like a little slapsticky, but I wonder if now hearing hearing what you're saying, maybe it wasn't super accurate. After I've been loading praises onto the show about their accuracy, maybe this wouldn't have happened because it's so important to all of them.
Look, it is. And on the way that Sarge just comes in and goes, we're forfeit. You guys are a joke. We're going to get kicked like you're crap. You have no coach. You're not winning. No one's coming to the game. And now you're fighting. Like it was the logical culmination, I guess, for the writing to fight. Maybe the whole Carson, Lupe thing could have been arrived at a different way. But I don't get your point about the slapstick. It's a good point. I just don't like the fighting. I just don't like this.
Why
part.
does Sarge call it a day? Just because Sarge is worried about her job, or?
Look at this. I think Sarge is playing the game, as in Sarge is finding them for wearing pants. She's making sure they're doing all the right things. I think she's kind of like, just like, maybe Sarge, if she was 20 years younger, she'd be like, you girls have got a shot. Now you're fighting. Like, you're already losing. You've got no coach. And now you're fighting. Like, come on. I think that's just a womanhood thing, just going, seriously, ladies. just be better. Sarge is awesome. I love her.
I like her too. Well, we end the episode with a little cliffhanger for our halfway through the season episode. Max meets Carson after the game and asks Carson to go somewhere, and that's how we end the episode.
I know. Now, I know what happens. I've watched the show a lot, but like when I watched it for the first time, I was like, where is this going? Like, what is she? I was just like, because part of me, I was like, is she asking to be on the team? Are they actually going to put her, like, that is not factually correct. I'm like, is she, like, what's going on? Is there going to be Max and Carson relation? I was like, what? It wasn't a cliffhanger, but it was like you were just like, where is this going? And I just went, okay, next episode. I didn't have to wait long.
It'll be interesting to see what happens. So yeah, can't wait to talk about that. Well, I feel like I say this on every recap, but this episode was so chock full of content. I feel like I watched 3 episodes or a movie, like I said. Do you have any overall thoughts on episode 4 or just on the first half of this season?
I think, as we said, I think this is where it kind of goes, it clicks into another gear. It really clicks in, not just to the episode, but it's just so many amazing moments for good reasons, bad reasons, hard to watch. I think this episode that I think really just sets it. And there's some good episodes to come. I think this is good. Like, it's just, the show's amazing. I just think this is, as you said, this could have been the movie. Flat out, this could have been.
Yeah.
Let's get them to make a movie.
Yeah. Ooh, maybe we will. That happens sometimes these days, more often, if a show is beloved. So, but at least it's season 2. I hope we get that announcement soon.
Yes, I have heard that they're already writing, or there's something started. There's something, I don't know. I don't know if it's wishful thinking.
Amy,
that is
okay.
Because this took like about 6 years. Like, they first started talking about this in like 5-6 years ago.
No, I didn't know that. I know Abby Jacobson talked to Penny Marshall quite a bit ago before Penny Marshall passed, but I didn't.
Yeah, they spoke to her, and then it took a while, and then they filmed the pilot, and then nothing happened for like a year and a bit. So that's why the pilot is quite different to the rest of the show. There's a massive gap. But yeah, it took a long time from when they first did it. So hopefully, I can't wait 5 years for season 2. I don't want to wait 5 weeks for season 2. Can we just get it out now?
Let's do it. Well, I want to thank Amy McCann for coming on to the podcast. I will have all of Amy's socials linked in the description, and make sure you go subscribe right now to The Inside Pitch if you want to know more about actual women playing actual baseball today. Like I said, head over there, check out all the great episodes Amy's released on The Inside Pitch. We got an episode 5 recap coming soon. I am actually going to be recording that within 24 hours of recording this, so I will have that released as soon as possible. Stay tuned to LesCast. And thank you so much, Amy, for coming on to the show. This has been awesome.
Thanks for asking me, and thank you for the show. So it's been awesome.